I invite you to be open, be curious, be committed, and remember that this is what I did. This is a starting point. Do not take this as law. This is merely a perspective and something that I have practiced and repeated hundreds upon hundreds of times. And so the first fundamental question, y'all, is why are you here? And I'm not talking about like in like this masterclass. I mean in life, because I don't believe it's a coincidence that you're here, but why are you here? Knowing where you are, where you want to be, and what it will take to get there is the first step of what we call the 4 ins process: intake, intention, in space, and integration. So, part of an intake process is you taking an intake, a self inventory on yourself. Where are you? What can you do as far as time? How many people could you support? How many people could fit in your living room or even a tiny room like this? I have done retreats in bedroom size rooms. It all comes down to your intention from the gate. So, we're going to start by understanding a little bit more about the intake process. When you sit and think about it or feel about it, what is inspiring you to host a 1 day retreat? Is it time? Maybe you're struggling to go travel right now. Is it money? You can't afford some of these expensive retreats in far off exotic places. Maybe it's accessibility, health wise, you're not able to travel, or because of your kids, you're unable to travel. I want you to write this down. What is inspiring you to host a 1 day retreat? From there, in the 4 ins process, we go from intake to intention. What is your intention? What do you want to know? What do you want to do? Who will you need to be in order to do this? And what do you need to understand? That for me is intention. What do you want to know, do, be, or understand? And that can include in this masterclass today. This could include in the retreats that you want to run. What is your intention? Because you are the bedrock of your experience. It has to start with you because there's going to be days you want to quit. There's going to be days you don't want to do it. There's going to be days you're going to question if this calling is the right thing. So your intention is really important here. Do I want to make money? Do I want to do it in my home? What is your intention? And then from there, what will I need to know? What will I need to do? Who will I have to be? What will I need to understand to pull this thing off? Every successful retreat and event that I have ever run started with a clear intention. For me, it's called weaving the container. My intention is the first thread. Then who I invite becomes other threads to weave in, and that creates the container for a successful event. So, what do you want the attendees to feel during and after? If you really pull back and think about it, why would they come? What would be the result when they leave? What do you want them to be saying in a closing circle? What do you want them to be feeling when they're in the experience? If you want to have connection, how are you going to support that? If you want them to feel accepted, loved, included, how are you going to do that? You are the curator of the container. So that includes from when you make an invitation to how they arrive to during the experience. What is your nurturing or your container? What does it provide for people when they leave and after? So in the intake process, how do you want them to feel? In the intention setting process, how do you want them to feel? In space is the experience itself, right? Intake, intention, in space is in the experience itself, and then integration. And we're going to talk more about that as we go through today's class. This is one of the things that is honestly the most important part, and it's identifying who is your ideal participant. What have they read, studied, or consumed in the last 2 to 3 years? Who do they follow online? What books do they read? So for me, the reason this is so important is because what you've studied has helped you have a certain understanding and context. So if you look at what you've studied and read in the last 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, if you've been on this path for a long time, then what was the path of things that you studied to bring your context and understanding to where it is? Because knowing where the people you want to have there are is going to deeply impact the words and the language you use when you invite them and how you talk during the event. For a lot of people, the reason that their retreats aren't landing is because they are not using a context that their retreat attendees understand. They're using like professional expert language. Same with their social media. Same with their social media or their emails that they're sending out. If you use professional language to someone that is new on this path, they might intellectually understand what you mean, but they don't get it. And so they may not lean into the experience because they don't really understand what inner child work means. They may not really understand what shadow work means. So knowing who you're speaking to is a really important part because when you start to send out the invitations or when you're sharing online or when you're just talking to people, you have to simplify it and meet people really under the assumption that they have never heard of these things before. So, how would you describe it to a 6-year-old? And not to say that we are speaking to people in a childlike way, we are speaking to them simplistically. Is that the word simplicity? Simplistically? I feel like it is. We're going to rock with it. And so, when you sit and you look at what you've been writing down so far, look at the words that you use. How could you say that different for someone that's never heard of that before? It's been said that a true expert is someone that can make it so clear that a 3-year-old could understand it. And if you want to work with more advanced people, that's fine, but you need to understand that because that's going to make a difference who you invite or who your events are for. What are their characteristics and behaviors? So I want you to think about this for a second. And if you've got your workbook already, consider what are the characteristics and behaviors of the people when you've gone to retreats? Because maybe you've never run a retreat. So I don't want you to get caught up on thinking, yeah, but Cole, I haven't done this before. If you've attended an event, a meetup, a networking thing, a church meeting, an AA meeting, whatever, what are the characteristics and behaviors that are really functional for you? What are the types of characteristics and behaviors that excite you? If you're very energetic like me and you've got this big energy and you're like, go, go, go all the time, that can be too much for the wrong person. And I say the wrong person only because that environment may not be supportive of them. Now, I can shift my energy. I've done the work to where it doesn't feel like I'm downplaying my energy. I understand the set and setting, but that's dependent on what my intention is for the event. So, what are the characteristics and behaviors of the person you'd like to see there? And if you've worked with clients before or you've done retreats before, I want you to think back of who the dream people were, where you're like, man, if I had 100 of them, I would do retreats every weekend for the rest of my life. Because by the time I was done hanging out with them, they gave me life. And if you're still not sure what I mean, think about a time you went to lunch with someone and you left after 1 hour and you felt drained. You were like, cool, so let's not do that again, ever. That is the difference I'm talking about. How some people, no matter how tired you are, you get around them and they give you life. Because if you take on people as clients or in retreats that pull energy from you, it can create resentment, frustration, and they deserve a place where they can be safe to be themselves and not have to. We just want everyone to be in the right place for them, right? Being most supportive. Who will align with the purpose and objectives of my retreat? So we go back to that intention, intake, intention. When I consider who would be the right thing, who will align with the purpose and objectives of my retreat, if my intention is to do really deep inner child work, then who would align with that? Probably not the person who's in a very traumatized place or in what we would call a snake phase. We have three archetypes. One is snake, puma, and condor. When someone's in a snake phase, they're in a very heavy transformational process. They might have just had a baby. They might have just left a job. They might have just had their partner leave them. And them going deeper to uncover more could be too much. Trauma isn't only these like scary events that happen. It's not just car accidents or things like that. It can be too much transformation. It can be too deep of digging at the wrong time. It can be too little, not having support. And they're working through parts of betrayal. And so, them not feeling supported, you are actually supporting harm instead of helping them heal. So, who will align with the purpose and objective of my retreat? If you're running a business retreat, it can be very sticky and tricky to do a business retreat and a transformational retreat all in one unless you are very intentional. Because if people come in thinking we're going to get into systems and strategies, and you said, actually, y'all, this is a mindset thing, it's your trauma, we need to do that work, you can actually create trauma. And I'm talking about a trauma sequence where they don't trust you. They kind of feel like they got a bait and switch. It's not, your intention is about you, but then once people come into the container, it's about them. One of my soapbox things that I'm absolutely getting on today, inclusivity requires exclusivity. Take a screenshot of this, take a picture, because most people don't really understand inclusivity. Now, you might be asking yourself, wait, but inclusivity is including people. So if I include people, how am I excluding them? That's what I'm going to break down for you. To create a truly inclusive and transformative retreat experience, it's essential to be selective about who attends your event. It is the only way you can ensure a cohesive and supportive environment where everyone can fully engage in the experience. But most people try to attract everyone, which in turn attracts no one. Creating a safe and nurturing space for personal growth and connection is going to do, and it will do, all the heavy lifting for the impact of your event. Most retreat centers, coaches, and transformational leaders get this wrong. And the wrong that I'm talking about is when it induces harm or supports harm. They claim that they're inclusive, but what they really mean is anyone can come, but not everyone will feel safe enough to access the deeper parts of themselves at the event based on who is in the room. This is why the intake process is key for alignment, safety, group dynamics, and optimal outcomes. A person who feels safe and connected to the experience and the people inside of that experience will not have the same walls and barriers to overcome. So thank you all today for your time, your energy, your love. If you aren't sure what to do next, I have so many free resources. Reach out. Say, Kole, here's what I need help with. I probably made something for you already. Okay. I love you dearly. Let's talk more about ways I could support you, save you time, money. If you work in the psychedelic space, how you market is tricky. So your Stripe doesn't get shut down or your assets frozen or all of that stuff happens. I've been through it all. And I would love for people to not go through it if I already have. Inhale.